In this episode we talk about legendary Zeiss cine lenses and how to build an affordable set to own.
Anything you say.
So we travel back in time to the Overlook Hotel, where your hosts Jack and Nicholas prepare themselves backstage. And as we all know, both of them are jerks, so tensions are high.
Hi Jack, I'm glad you could make it to an Epic Media Division episode.
Oh, no problem at all. I made the trip in 3.5 hours.
And considering your smell, you had 10 little burps along the way. Slightly cocky. Okay, let's talk about Zeiss Super Speeds. Do you know who liked to shoot with these lenses, Jack?
Who?
Stanley Kubrick did, and he shot a little movie with it, called The Shining. Does it ring any bells?
No.
And did you know that the Contax Zeiss lenses have the same coating, the same glass, and the same general design that these do? Obviously not. To improve, you're gonna subscribe to the Media Division, and you're gonna produce 10,000 flyers for us. Well, I suggest you sit down on that butt of yours and start typing right away.
Yes, today we are going to have a look at the legendary Zeiss Super Speed lenses, like they have been used in many classic movies, and we are going to compare those to their siblings from the same time, the Contax Zeiss photo lenses, to explore the similarities and some differences. From those we are going to build a relatively affordable Super Speed set to own. We test each lens in that set on Micro Four Thirds, Super 35 and full frame. We test some interesting gear that will make your life easier on a production and show you how to cine-mod these lenses, including gearing, mount change, declicking, damping and whatever this is. And meanwhile, we'll look after Jack's progress typing those flyers.
That is a lot to go through, so get comfortable, grab some popcorn, and let's get up to speed. Once in a while, every filmmaker dreams of not only renting out great cinema lenses, but to own a set on his own. And of course the price is the roadblock here, with cine lenses costing as much as sports cars in a set. And what we are going to do today is to find a legendary cine lens and to build a set that gives us a comparable image without breaking the bank. The legendary Zeiss Super Speed lenses are real dream lenses, and their extreme high speed of T1.3 is what gave them the name Super Speeds. And that's even fast by modern standards. Unfortunately, very few of us can afford these lenses because I've seen sets go for around 80,000 euros, and I even saw single lenses for as high as $13,000. And that's not the only point. The availability is so low because nobody's selling these lenses that compiling a whole set can be painful till impossible. The Contax Zeiss lenses are built for photography, but as they are very, very close to the Super Speeds, I like to call them the poor man's Super Speed. The Contax Zeiss lenses actually use the same glass and the same coating that the cine lenses do, and therefore the image is quite similar. How do we know this? Well, I just called Zeiss in Germany and had a great talk with them. They were very nice and gave me some information that I will include in this episode. If you're not familiar with the Zeiss Super Speeds, here's a little introduction.
Introduced in 1975, the Super Speeds were very popular throughout the 80s and the 90s, and many iconic movies were shot on them, like The Shining, Raging Bull, Full Metal Jacket,
Let's go get some payback.
RoboCop,
Let the woman go, you are under arrest.
and Lost in Translation. And until today they are very popular as their vintage characteristics take the edge of digital sensors.
No, let me go.
Especially that Kubrick was a fan of the Super Speeds is very telling, as he was the ultimate lens nerd, owning the glass he shot on and often picking a favorite lens from multiple identical lenses he was offered. The Super Speeds are quite sharp, but by no means perfect in optical regards, as they show heavy aberration, triangular bokeh in the first incarnation of the lenses,
Hi, Lloyd.
and have other quirks like an extending focus barrel, which makes the use of matte boxes difficult. By the way, Zeiss themselves didn't officially call any of these lenses Super Speeds. They were called the B Speeds, and Super Speeds was a meme that the users came up with, and it stuck. So much actually that Zeiss adopted the name in 2012 for some of their CP2 lenses.
In the same year that Zeiss released the Super Speed lenses, it revived an old brand called Contax, and it did so with releasing a whole line of new lenses, which were called the Contax Zeiss lenses. And some of these lenses have very, very similar specs to the Cine lenses. And that's the lenses we want to talk about today. And we're going to pitch these lenses against a real Super Speed Cine lens.
The base of our set are the three fastest lenses in the Contax Zeiss lineup, consisting of a 50mm f1.4, a 35mm f1.4 and a 85mm f1.4. While this is already a quite workable set depending on your sensor size, we decided to add two f.2 lenses to give us a more complete set. The 28mm f2 aka Hollywood and the 135mm f2. And because we like quirky lenses and they are fan favorites, we also added the amazing 50mm f3.6 and the 35 to 70mm zoom lens, as it's also a macro lens.
Before we test each and every of these lenses and before we pitch the Contax Zeiss 50mm 1.4 against the Super Speed MK3, here is a brief introduction to Contax Zeiss lenses. The Western German Carl Zeiss lacked the right electronics to compete with the new system, so it made a strategic partnership with Kyocera Yashica, a Japanese manufacturer. The result was a 35mm system and a new line of lenses. The production of these lenses was in part in Germany and in part in Japan. Both of these facilities used the exact same glass and the exact same coating, so the quality of these lenses should be identical.
In 1985 the new multi-mode was introduced with a modified but compatible mount. Some design changes, like a different iris to get rid of the infamous Ninja Star bokeh, and completely new lenses were introduced. We refer to lenses from the first generation as AE and lenses from the second as MM. From the outside, the easiest way to tell if a lens is AE or MM is the color of the highest f-stop. AE lenses have a white number, MM lenses have a green number. This code, followed by the first letter of the production country, is used to quickly distinguish lenses and to determine their value. MM lenses are newer and dealt with some flaws, so they are a bit more thought after and have higher prices. While the production in Germany and Japan was supposed to be identical and there is no obvious difference, the German lenses are more popular.
If you build a set of MM lenses, MMJ or MMG, or mix both, is completely up to you and to your budget. Our set is mostly consistent of AEG lenses because we don't mind the Ninja Star bokeh and they are easier to get. For those who are not familiar with Zeiss lenses, I will give you a short introduction into Zeiss taxonomy, which means when you look inside the rings you can read that you have something written there like planar or distagon or other names, and Zeiss does have marketing name like Otus or Milvis or CP2, CP3, Master Primes or Contax Zeiss. But these names have nothing to do with it. These names have to do with the general design. So having a distagon or planar in it doesn't mean that you have lenses that belong somehow to a different a set or have different coatings or anything. It is just the general optical design that these lenses are based on. Of course, the Contax Zeiss lenses are fully manual with hard stops, just like a filmmaker wants lenses to be. Not that I have something against autofocus in general, but there are few situations where autofocus is needed and where it works reliable. And to have hard stops on a lens, which servo lenses usually don't have, is that you can learn a lens. Your brain can map the focus distances in relation to your hand and how fast you have to turn it and where to stop. Meaning, for example, if you're changing the mount and you shim the lens, that you pinpoint infinity. You don't even have to look, you just have to know at what point this lens reaches infinity. And if you know, for example, oh, this object is 7 meters or more away, you just turn to infinity and you don't even have to look. You can concentrate on framing and on movement and everything, and the focus will be spot on. So, praise manual lenses.
Friends of vintage glass like the Super Speeds or Contax Zeiss will often tell you that these lenses are so unique because we can't duplicate them. This is not because Zeiss got worse at lens manufacturing over time, but that the glass and the coating contains lead, which is widely prohibited from use in new products. In my talks with Zeiss, I discussed how important this is to the actual image, and like you might have expected, minor changes in the design and modern materials can compensate the disadvantage of not using lead.
So while this is a cool story, and it's true also, it's not relevant to how your image looks anymore. The Contax Zeiss lenses are very popular as so-called taking lenses for anamorphic adapter or old projector lenses, like this is one. This is because they are very sharp, they are very neutral in their characteristics, and they are built very sturdy, made out of metal. But as this is a very complex subject just on its own, we will talk about that in a later upcoming episode. If you're interested in that, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so we can let you know when this is coming out. Let's start by pitching the Contax Super Speed against the Cine Super Speed.
We are using a rented 50mm Zeiss Super Speed MK3 T1.3. It's built for the ages in a demanding cine world and therefore very large and heavy. While being designed for Super 35, this lens covers full frame with some vignetting. Of course, it has a PL mount. It is quite quirky as it has the iris ring in the front instead of the back, and as we mentioned, the lens extends during focusing. The challenger is a 50mm Contax Zeiss AEJ f1.4. Compared to the Cine lens, it is small and lightweight. The optical front element is a bit smaller, which is to be expected being a little bit slower. The lens is designed for full frame, and we made a EF mount conversion, which will allow it to be used on a focal reducer on smaller sensors.
We are going to do all the boring tests using all the Contax Zeiss lenses and the Cine lens in just a minute. But it's hard to get a real emotional feel for those lenses. And I want to try a complete different approach. We just took the Cine 50mm and the 50mm 1.4 Contax Zeiss and took them on a spin with our Mavo LF. It's a full frame Cine camera. And we just edited a bit of scenes together that have been shot on the one or the other lens. And I have little letters in the corners saying A or B. And this way you should be able to tell if there's a meaningful difference between these images, at least to you. Let's try that. Were you able to tell the difference between a $13,000 legendary cine lens and a $200 photo lens? Was A the cine lens or was B the cine lens? Or was there no meaningful difference at all? Well, I'll leave that up to you. Actually, A was the Super Speed MK3 and B was the Contax Zeiss.
I bet you have your own opinions, but let me give you my 2 cents. The images are very close to each other. I can see a little bit of special fairy dust in the MK3 shots, but if I haven't had the direct comparison, I would fail to consistently tell which is which. That means that your audience surely can't feel the difference, or gives a damn. The MK3 is slightly faster for even dreamier shots and foreground separation. It surely is hard to argue the vast price difference just in regard of the image quality. Practical aspects matter a lot to save time on high-end productions, but the MK3 lacks a lot of these advantages by having an extending focus barrel. The size and weight surely matters in terms of durability and serviceability, but these factors hardly matter for an owner-operator, so I have to give that point to the Contax Zeiss. The Contax Zeiss also offers way more mounting possibilities via adapters and speed booster, and being a full-frame lens, it is better suited for a larger format future, leaving us with a much longer focus throw of the MK3. Using focus motors can give a long focus throw to the Contax Zeiss when you need it. I will show you later using the great and affordable Tilta Nucleus-N. I want to give my old friend Christopher a shout out for playing our talent in this episode. And you might have asked yourself why he is running as if he had a full diaper. Well, he has severe back problems, so we are very lucky he did this anyways. That's the spirit. And knowing him as long as I do, I am sure that his diaper is full as well. When I told him that during the shoot, he gave us the opportunity to test focus wrecking and the close focus limits of the MK3. Thanks a lot, man.
I think it is safe to say that the Contax Zeiss Super Speeds are at least a contender for serious professional work.
Now, let's work through all our lenses with our test environment using a GH5 as our Micro Four Third camera, a EVA 1 as our Super 35 camera, and the Marvel F as our full frame camera. This way you can evaluate sharpness, distortions, vignetting, breathing, the field of view, and so on. Let's go. We are going to start with the Super Speed MK3 T1.3. As it's a PL mount and we only have PL mount for our Marvel F, we will simulate the other formats by simply cropping. It is built for the ages and weighs a hefty 811 grams. As it's designed for Super 35mm, it shows some vignetting on full frame. At T1.3 it is soft and has expressive bokeh. The focus throw is very long and allows for super precise focus with the right gear. We still see some breathing. At T2.8 we are already dead sharp without looking clinical. T4 adds little but depth of field. Close focus is quite far with 70 centimeters. And here you see the lens on different sensor sizes and only with this lens and due to the PL mount as crops. An MK3 version of this 50mm in perfect condition can cost as much as $13,000 if you can find one. For a simpler direct comparison to the Cine Super Speed, we start the Contax Zeiss line with a 50mm f1.4. Modded, it weighs 332 grams. At f1.4 it is soft and has expressive bokeh. The breathing is tolerable and comparable to the Cine lens. The focus throw is about 200 degrees. At f2.8 we are dead sharp without looking clinical. And we can see the ninja star bokeh. From f4 the bokeh is normal again. Close focus is much better than the Cine lens at only 45 centimeters. And here is how the lens looks on different sensor sizes. A AEG version of the 50mm starts around $200 on eBay. Let's get back to the normal sequence with the Contax Zeiss 28mm f2 that has the fan name Hollywood. a nickname that it has for no particular reason, and even Zeiss has no idea why it carries that nickname. Modded, it weighs 592 grams. At f2, it is already sharp. The breathing is minimal. The focus throw is about 100 degrees. At f4, we are dead sharp without looking clinical. Close focus is at 25 centimeters. And here is how the lens looks on different sensor sizes. As the 28mm is a fan favorite, the AEG version of the 50mm starts at a hefty $750 on eBay. If that is too high for you, a 2.8 version of the 28mm is way cheaper, starting at $200. Next is the Contax Zeiss 35mm f1.4, one of the rare lenses in the set that makes it hard to get and expensive. Modded, it weighs 667 grams. At f1.4 it is relatively sharp. The breathing is minimal. The focus throw is only about 100 degrees. At f4 we are dead sharp without looking clinical. Close focus is at 30 centimeters. And here is how it looks on different sensor sizes. As the 35mm is rare and popular, the AEG version starts around $650 on eBay. If that is too high for you, a 2.8 35mm is way cheaper, starting at $180. Next is the Contax Zeiss 85mm f1.4. Modded, it weighs 650 grams. At f1.4 it is relatively sharp. The breathing is tolerable. The focus throw is about 220 degrees. At f4 we are dead sharp without looking clinical. Close focus is about 85 centimeters. And here is how the lens looks on different sensor sizes. The AEG version of the 85mm starts around $400 on eBay. Next is the Contax Zeiss 135mm f2. Modded, it weighs 851 grams. At f2 it is already sharp. The breathing is tolerable. The focus throw is about 180 degrees. At f4 we are dead sharp without looking clinical. Close focus is at 1.5 meters. And here is how the lens looks on different sensor sizes. The 135mm is rare and popular. The AEG version of the 135 starts at about $850 on eBay. If that's too high for you, a 2.8 135mm is way cheaper, starting at $200. We are now done with the extended set. But as we said in the beginning, we will include two more Contax Zeiss lenses in the set, just because they're so quirky and popular. And that is the 50mm f3.5 and the 35-70 zoom. First, there's the Contax Zeiss 50mm f3.5. It looks like a fisheye, but it's not. It's a low distortion, ultra wide angle with built-in UV and color filter system. When it was launched, it was ridiculously expensive. According to a calculation, including inflation, the lens would cost about $35,000 in today's money. Compared to that, the eBay price of $1,000 for the AEG seems more than acceptable. On full frame, it's clearly more of an effect lens than something you would use all day, but on smaller sensors, the 50mm could be a lifesaver. Modded, it weighs 934 grams. We are going to alter the setup a bit to show you how wide this lens gets. The breathing is tolerable. The focus throw is about 90 degrees. The close focus of only 16 centimeters gives you a very unique view, and you have to be extremely careful where you stand and where your hands are to avoid being in the field of view. And here it is how it looks on the different sensor sizes. Our last lens is the Contax Zeiss 35-70 f3.4. It is the only vintage zoom that we dare to use, and we love it. Modded, it's light at 519 grams. Instead of a zoom ring, it has a push and pull mechanism, which makes the use of gears and matte boxes pretty much impossible, but the images are lovely. The breathing is alright for a zoom, and the push-pull lets you zoom in and out much quicker than you could with any other lens. And it seems to be parfocal, an interesting feature for interesting effects. On top of that, the lens has a macro mode at 35mm, with very decent quality, so this is a real arounder if you want to be super light and quick. There's one thing I would like to mention. In macro mode it has the worst breathing, which makes framing difficult. You should rather change the camera's distance than the focus to the right framing. And here is how the lens looks on different sensor sizes. The MMJ version of the 35-70 starts around $240 on eBay. It is easy to miss focus after push-pulling, as you might turn the barrel, just like we did here. As always, you will find quick links to all lenses on ebay.com in the description. They are affiliate, but that doesn't cost you a cent more, so if our word made you purchase some lenses, it's a little bit of something for a tip jar. Thanks a lot.
Jack. 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 Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Jack. 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 Are you grouchy that I made you type 10,000 flyers to help us?
Being grouchy. I just want to finish my work.
I just wanted to ask our viewers to help us out.
Why don't you start right now and get the fuck out of here?
Episodes like this take up a lot of work, and we love producing them. So if you are one of our viewers that loves our content, please help us spread the word. That means whatever you have as a preferred means of communication, talk, tweet, post, comment, hashtag, whatever it is, just spread the word so we can grow faster. We believe that together we can change the course of YouTube from quantity to quality. Thanks for sharing our dream.
We also have an Instagram account under the handle media.division, where you can see what we are cooking for the next episode and give you some behind the scenes. As a special goodie for you guys, we uploaded a breakdown of the VFX used for the intro of this episode. So follow us on Instagram, give us a like if you think we deserve one, and don't forget to activate the notifications so we can knock on your door when we got something new.
I can't get out.
With a set like this, it makes a lot of sense to own a motorized focus solution. This way you can change the focus direction to Nikon if you prefer it like I do. And you can nullify the advantage of the Cine lens to have a longer focus throw. With a motorized solution, you can choose the gearing, so you can have extremely long focus throw if you need it in a certain situation, and you can have a relatively short one if you need to rack through a whole scene. Of course, there are mechanical follow focus that have gearboxes to have these features, but none of these solutions is as versatile and as cheap as Tilta's Nucleus N.
Tilta introduced the Nucleus N as a simpler and more affordable brother to the Nucleus M. For slightly north of $200 you will get a quite complete system. In the back you will find one small motor that can be powered via USB or D-tab, and a hand wheel with a fitting rechargeable batteries. It has about 330 degrees of turn with hard stops, and it can also start and stop recording on supported cameras. The bag also contains some mounting solutions for mirrorless cameras and gimbals, flexible lens gears and some cables and the charger.
As an extra goodie, Tilta sells a cable that allows remote start-stop function for the newer Kinefinity cameras like the Marvel LF and the Terra 4K. Until now, Kinefinity failed to deliver any means to remote turn the camera on off. And if you have a Marvel LF like I do and that films me right now, with the heavy codecs of the camera, to remotely be able to just start and stop the camera is worth this button's weight in gold. So thank you very much, Tilta, for thinking of us Kinefinity owners. This is great.
The setup is as simple as possible. Attach the motor to a suitable 50mm rod. As we are using vintage lenses, I recommend to power the motor with D-tap, as it gives a little bit more torque. If you want to remote control the camera, attach the fitting cable. These cables are sold separately. Power up the hand wheel and choose the same channel on hand wheel and motor. As the Contax Zeiss lenses have hard stops, all you need to do now is to press the calibration button. After a few seconds, the setup is ready for action. The hard stops of the wheel are always mapped to the hard stops of the lens, giving all lenses the exact same focus throw. The hand wheel is the ideal focus throw for long ramps without having to change the grip on the wheel. This is about 70 meters away and there's no reception problem. If you need to be further away, you're doing it wrong. You can set A and B points with servo lenses that don't have hard stops, and the A and B feature can be used to give the Contax Zeiss lenses a really long, ultra-precise focus throw. Let me show you how. Let's say you want to focus two objects that are relatively close. Just put focus point A on the first and focus point B on the second object. And presto! Now the whole range of the hand wheel is used for the set focus area, letting you control the speed and positioning of the focus ramping with amazing precision.
And as you don't hear, the motor operates virtually silent. Well, I don't recommend using any motorized photo gear while you use on-cam microphones, but that will include servos in autofocus lenses. I really like the simplicity of the Nucleus N. It gives me exactly what I need, and it doesn't confuse me with things that I don't need. And at the price point, I can wholeheartedly recommend the Nucleus N. Well done, Tilta, and thank you very much for letting me review this. I will put links in the description with more information and where to buy it. And while we are at remote controlling the camera, how about remote viewing the image too, so we have a complete remote focus system? Well, most of the video transmitters are quite expensive, and even the cheap one cost about €1,000. So we are very open for a cheaper solution that works. Accsoon brought out a little gadget that is called the CineEye, and this one uses 5G Wi-Fi to send the image of your camera to your phone.
It is as simple as that. The CineEye is a compact HDMI transmitter device with integrated battery, but it can also be powered via the USB Type-C. HDMI cables are included in the box. There's a full-size, mini and micro connectors. Setup couldn't be simpler. Attach the CineEye to your camera's hot or cold shoe and put in the HDMI feed of your camera. The large LED on the front indicates status and charge. The LEDs are large, so you can see them from far away. Very clever for a remote device. If the CineEye loses HDMI feed, the LED indicator turns red. Next, you take your phone and join the CineEye network and launch the app. And the image you receive is surprisingly good considering the ordinary Wi-Fi in use. The app also has focus assist, false color, histograms, zebras, the whole shebang. The app also allows you to upload and use custom LUTs, which is essential when you shoot log video.
And all of that works on the screen that you have already on you. Not bad for a device that costs slightly north of $200.
To give you an idea how good the image quality is and how Focus Assist works, here is a simultaneous screen recording of the app. Of course, it's not all gold, and it's not to be expected with a device in this price range and using Wi-Fi. I randomly encountered reception problems with my phone, even when I was right next to the transmitter. It seems that the system can be irritated by other signals when your Wi-Fi airspace has a lot of traffic. Accsoon is working on that. Another obvious sub-ideal situation is the lag that Wi-Fi is giving. In combination with a particular laggy video output like the Marvel F has one, you will have a quite laggy video feed that might be too much for a fast-paced focus pulling.
But if you have a fast video output on your camera and if you have a small budget, the CineEye might be a good solution to you. And it might even be a good solution for high-end production because it can do something what many high-end systems can't do. It can stream to phones, not even one, to many phones. Just imagine you can stream to your crew members the signal while they're in different rooms. Maybe the hair and makeup is a couple of rooms away and they can see on their iPad what is happening in camera. They can see if the wardrobe is right, if the hair is right, or the makeup is right. Or maybe you have a B crew, or you have a customer which is not even on set but on another area of the set. Great. Or potentially you could stream the signal over the internet to a customer who's not even in the same country. Well, that is really the power of the new, and it sounds like the future to us. And that's why the CineEye deserves a serious look. You will find a link with more information and where to buy the CineEye in the description. Thank you, Accsoon, for letting me try the device. Now let's get dirty. We are doing things for men who are not afraid to lay under the hood.
We will start by exploring the simple adapter solutions. After that, we will show you how to change the mount to EF, how to declick the aperture ring, mix your own grease to damp the aperture ring, and where to get some seamless focus rings as well as custom-made lens hoods. As the Contax Zeiss system is around since the last ice age and the lenses are still very popular, there are solutions to adapt them to about any system except for those that have a longer flange than the Contax Zeiss, which is the case with Nikon F. There are some options for Litax for very specific lenses though. EF is very slightly shorter, making direct adaptation possible but tricky. The adapters are very thin and they are all quirky, giving you problems to reach infinity. Quite often users are irritated by the flimsy locking mechanism of these adapters. We tried €10 adapters from eBay but cannot recommend them. The adapter is kept from spinning by a tiny screw that is easily broken off. A bit better is the option from Photodiox, but that costs around $70, and the only advantage to permanent solutions is that you can use it on several lenses. But in the long run, we definitely recommend to exchange the mount with a more permanent solution. And this is where Litax is the name of the game. This manufacturer offers permanent but reversible solutions that are very high quality. Now we will show how to do a Litax EF conversion. Different lenses have different mount kits, and Litax has tutorials available on how to determine which one you need and how to assemble it. Just to give you an idea, we will mod the 25mm f2.8 as it is a very common mount. The basics are the same for all lenses. Let's be crystal clear, everything you do to your lenses is at your own risk. Don't come here crying if something goes wrong. In any case, we recommend to get a lens cleaning set. Zeiss, of course. Also, we recommend getting a metal file, pincers and a small Phillips screwdriver with a flat profile. Screwdrivers with a high profile might ruin your screws. Just buy the one that Litax offers along their mounts. We start by removing the 2 screws from the little nose on top of the mount. It might take a little force to pull the piece off after the screws are gone. Next, unscrew the 3 screws holding down the ring. Now you can remove the ring. If you just want to exchange mounts, jump ahead to the reassembly. We are going to declick the lens. Unscrew the 3 reveal screws. Now we can remove the cover plate, revealing a bit of the aperture mechanics. We'll have to remove the aperture ring. To do so, remove these 2 screws. Now, take off the aperture ring. There are 2 protruding elements that might collide with your speed booster if you're planning to use one. Besides damage to the speed booster, it puts enough pressure on the system to skew with infinity focus, so we decided to get rid of these parts. The first is a tiny lever, not to be mistaken with the aperture ring holder. The lever is attached with two tiny screws. Be careful unscrewing them as the element is floating. The other part is the difficult one. It's the nose on the cover plate. Getting rid of it will alter the original mount permanently, so be very aware that going ahead might have negative effects on the value of the lens. To get rid of this part you will need a metal file. A fine one will do. The material is not very sturdy and you can file the part down in just a couple of seconds. To avoid harsh edges that could cut you later, we polish the part. Please use safety goggles. We paint the metal with black waterproof marker to make sure there are no reflections inside the mount. Back to basics. Declick the lens by removing the tiny ball sticking out of the side. The best way to do it is to pull it out from the inside. Next up is mixing the grease.
A grease has a certain viscosity, which means if they are applied to more surface, they will produce more friction. As these nuanced spaces may allow for more or less grease to be applied, it is very hard to get the exact same friction and tension to get the same amount of resistance in these lenses. And to get it really consistent, so you don't have to relearn the force you have to use to change the aperture each and every time, I developed a little trick that I would like to share with you.
I bought two different helicoid greases. One is a 30 strength and one doesn't have a number, but it's labeled as very strong. Use a brush or a Q-tip to apply a film of the light grease on the lens, where the aperture ring will sit. If you reattach the ring now, you see that you have a small amount of resistance. Take the ring off again. Now apply 4 tiny drops of the strong grease around the same surface. Reattach the ring and move it a bit. If the resistance is right, you can reassemble the mount. If the resistance is still too light, apply 4 more little drops. Repeat until the desired resistance is reached. Tip: be careful and only apply little amounts. If the resistance is too high, you will have to clean the lens with a Kleenex and start over by applying the light grease.
The result is that all the lenses have the right resistance according to your taste, and you don't have to adjust when you swap the lens.
Now we start to reassemble the lens by reattaching the cover plate and then screwing on the Litex mount using the longer screws that came with it. All you get to do now is to get yourself some seamless focus gears. We can recommend followfocusgears.com. You can order a specific build-to-fit ring for almost any Contax Zeiss lens in their online store. It makes a lot of sense to attach step-up rings to have the same filter size all over the set. A traditional cine size is 80mm, but as everything that has cine written on it just costs 10 times more and we already own a lot of filters for 77mm, we decided to buy cheap step-up rings from Amazon that will bring each lens to 77mm. To give the set a personal finish, we had custom lens caps printed. You can upload your own designs to lensbuddies.com and order the caps that you need, but of course any cap will do.
It does take a little bit of time to find the right lenses at the right time. And quite often it takes a little bit of love to bring one lens back to life and to care for it in a decent way. But maybe that is what makes the relationship from you to your set very special and what makes your Contax Zeiss Super Speed set legendary. We love our Contax Zeiss set, and a well-kept set is very stable in its price, and we think it can only get better, which makes it a quite good investment.
We would like to give a shout out to the Carl Zeiss AG in Germany for not only giving us great glass, but also for being so open and so helpful. We couldn't have done this episode without them. Thank you very much, Zeiss, from us and our viewers.
Before we have one last look what Jack is doing, let me sign out first. I hope you found this interesting and you will subscribe to the Media Division if you haven't done that already. We love to socialize with you, so please leave us a comment and we're sure to answer that. I hope I see you soon, and I'm signing out. My name is Nicholas with Nerdylicious Wishes. Shoot something amazing. Bye.